But her surgeon said, why don't you come and help me? I look after lots of persons with leprosy, and I'll teach you how to operate on these persons with leprosy. So in her wheelchair, she went to the operation theater. We had to work out how to get the wheelchair into the operation theater, how to wear a gown. They did all that, and she began to operate on the hands of people with leprosy. The amazing thing was that these patients with leprosy, when they saw how difficult it was for Dr. Mary and how bravely she had overcome her difficulty and was helping them, they were in awe of her. Their own deformities of the face, of the hands, of the feet became nothing, because here was somebody who was even more injured and even more paralyzed. But she had overcome that paralysis and was helping them. Now at that time we had, the treatment for spinal cord injury was well developed in a place in Perth in Australia. There was a person called Sir George Bedbrook and Dr. Griffiths, and in a place called Shenton Park in Perth, Australia, they had a big center for helping persons with spinal cord injury to walk. So Dr. Mary Verghese went there and learned how to walk. Then she came back and continued to work on persons with leprosy, operating on their hands and their feet, helping them to be restored to full life. But she thought in her mind, how can I help other people like me who have a spinal cord injury? It so happened that Dr. Paul Brand met a young physician called Howard Rusk. During the Second World War, there was a huge need for people to work in a specialty called physical medicine and rehabilitation. And so Dr. Howard Rusk began to work among these people, started a hospital and a training program in New York. He agreed to train Dr. Mary Verghese so that she could come back to India and start helping people who are like her. Okay? So this Dr. Howard Rusk is called the father, one of the fathers of physical medicine and rehabilitation. And so he, through an intergovernment agreement, the finances for her training were worked out, and she went to New York. Interestingly, the first year of her training was to learn how to look after herself. That is, how to become completely independent in a city like New York. Now, this was Dr. Mary Verghese, was from this village called Vellore. It was amazing when she went to New York. She learned how to drive a car. She learned how to live independently. She had a motorized wheelchair, so she could go in the snow, she could go in the rain, and she rehabilitated herself and then learned how to do this for people with spinal cord injury, got a qualification, the American Board of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation, and came back to India and started one of the first centers for rehabilitation in CMC Vellore. This is Dr. Mary. You can see her in the middle. She's talking with the engineers, and the Caucasian gentleman is Dr. Paul Brand, who was her surgeon and also a great supporter. He helped to raise money so she could make this rehabilitation institute. After a few years, the Rehabilitation Institute was ready. She set up a physiotherapy, occupational therapy, prosthetic and orthotic, speech therapy sections, and began to treat patients. Now you can see her examining a child with polio. Polio was a big problem in the 60s. Her department, she was able to open the department in 1963. That's about 60 years ago. And children and adults from all over the country would come there to be helped by her. She was not only excellent in her work, she had many other amazing qualities. And so the country actually gave her a Padma Shri because she took up research. She got an ICMR funded research on how to help people with this kind of a problem in India. She started a postgraduate training course under the University of Madras. And when the then Prime Minister of India came to CMC, she was one of the people, this is Srimati Indira Gandhi, she wanted to meet Dr. Mary Verghese because she said, here is a young lady who not only overcame a huge problem, but she converted that problem into an asset. Now, how did she do that? Because she herself was in a wheelchair, because she herself had a disability, a spinal cord injury, she knew from the inside what such people go through. And so when they came to her for treatment, they were inspired by her, and they knew that she understands what they feel. She had suffered the pain that they were suffering, and so they trusted her. So what started as a tragedy, she was able to convert into a triumph. Now, she not only did that, but she set a huge example to all of us in the medical fraternity in CMC. You know, sometimes we may grumble because a coffee is not hot enough in the morning, or sometimes we may grumble because some equipment that we wanted hasn't arrived or is broken down. But here was this lady. She taught herself how to dress, she taught herself how to operate, she taught herself how to administer, and all this from a wheelchair at a time when this was very unusual. And her patients were so inspired by her that many others who saw what she had done went back to different parts of the world and started rehab centers. I know that there was one person from Bangladesh who did that, there was somebody in Orissa who did that. So there are only a few that I know, but from my reading, I realized that there were many people. She was not only overcame that disability herself, but she inspired other people to overcome disabilities. Now, what does overcoming disability mean? Okay? Now, because you're young, I want you to think, and think in color, not only in black and white. I feel that overcoming disability is helping people to move from darkness to light, from despair to hope. Okay? So physical medicine and rehabilitation, among many other specialties in medicine, is not just about handing out some pills, not about repairing a broken part of the body, not about getting rid of some bacteria or some viruses. It's about infusing into people new hope, new life, so that they can see that their lives have meaning and purpose, and the meaning and purpose in the lives of patients who come to them can be helped to blossom and develop. So I want to thank you for your attention, and I want to invite you to join medicine, and particularly physical medicine and rehabilitation, so that you can follow in the footsteps of Dr. Mary Verghese and transform the lives of thousands of people and find fulfillment and hope in your own. Now, this is something that happened in the past, but I was very keen that you get some idea about what is happening now. So we have a very short video. We were hoping this particular patient, Mr. Justin, would be able to come here and talk to you himself, but he's coming tomorrow, so you can meet him tomorrow in person. But just for today, we have a very short video that we want to play for you, just to explain to you firsthand from a person who very recently had a spinal cord injury, a cervical spine injury, and then took treatment in Christian Medical College, Vellore, and his life has been transformed. Henry, shall we have the video? So while that's coming up, does anyone have any question? Okay, I see before me many possible Mary Vergheses and many possible inspiring lives just like she had. So in my mind, I'm going forward 60 years, and I hope it'll be one of you who can talk about an inspiring teacher who so motivated you that you were completely changed into someone with a mission, someone who wants to make a difference, okay? A single person can make a difference in the lives of many, and that single person could be you, and it is my dream and my hope it will be. Yeah? Now, one of the amazing things about physical medicine and rehabilitation, while I'm waiting for that to come up, is that it seeks to work with multiple aspects of science. So we work with, as you'll see in this video, people from the engineering sciences, people from the psychological sciences, people from the environment and physical sciences, chemical scientists, because we use multiple forces and multiple methods to try to restore a person to full function. The eminent people who come after me will give you vignettes of how this is done. But I'm here just to set the ball rolling. And if it's very difficult, shall we go on to the next speaker and 1 minute, okay. How many of you have been to Vellore or passed Vellore while coming here? Okay. So next time you're in Vellore, you can stop. We used to say when I joined Vellore about 60 years ago, there were 7 wonders of Vellore. Now most of the wonders are not there now, but I'll tell you what the wonders are, okay? We had a river without water. We had a fort without a garrison. We had hills without trees. We had a temple without a god. We had men without brains and women without beauty.
My name is Justin
wonders of Vellore. Okay, here we are.
Thus, I head operations.
Come to Vellore and see the wonders.
For a research center at IIT Madras. We design and develop assistive technologies for persons with disabilities. Right now, I am at our experience center, where in the background you can see different users going on and off. This is a real background. Today I want to talk about the importance of rehabilitation, what it did in my life, and how I see it as a person with lived experience, but how others, my peers as well, look at it. Maybe this is familiar for a lot. Out of you, but I'd still go ahead and emphasize that the science of rehabilitation is not something that's been there for several centuries. In fact, something like a spinal cord injury was a condition best left to die until a few decades back. It was only after World War II the concept of rehabilitation started gathering momentum, and it became a structured thing. So if I was probably born 100 years back and I picked up a spinal cord injury, my lifespan would have been so short. It's been 14 years since my spinal cord injury. I picked it up in 2009. And my life, what I've seen, I divided into 4 different phases. In the last 14 years. I'll talk about that phase, but I also want to say typically what I do and what is my level of injury, so that there's a context set. I have a C6 level spinal cord injury. It's a motor complete injury, which means my fingers don't work. I have moderate wrist function, partial triceps function, good biceps function, and good shoulder function as well. But everything else is paralyzed. I have a compromise. compromised bladder and bowel control. I use a urine bag to drain. I use suppositories to do bowel management. So this is my physical situation. But having said that, here's a typical day of my life. I wake up at around 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. Push the wheelchair using the lower side of my palm on the push rim for about 4 to 5 kilometers for fitness. My wife and I, we are parents for a 5-year-old pair of 5-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. So to them, when I come back after my fitness, I have to take them, for their morning walk or to the park, child area, play area, and all of that. And then we get them ready for their school. Then after that, I drive down to IIT Madras, which is about 25 kilometers away from my home every day for my work. I have a hand-operated car, and that's a typical day. And I then head back home, spend time with the kids for their education and all of that. Weekends, hang out with friends, meet other persons who are newly injured, and things like that. Now, traditionally, for a person with this neck level injury, paralysis neck down, these are not things that are expected. That's primarily because there is a common denominator that goes in, and a lot of us think that once that person picks up a severe disability, it's very difficult for them to recover and play the community roles. This is where rehabilitation comes in play. I did my first stint of rehabilitation at CMC Vellore in 2009-10, soon after my accident, and a second stint somewhere in 2012, and life's changed significantly after that. So the first phase is what I call, in my last 14 years, is a phase of uncertainty where I wasn't sure what's happening in my body, and but then slowly from there, picking up from my felt needs, goals, talking to physiatrists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, I started constructing my life from there. And the second phase is what I call as a phase of interdependence, where I started making agreements with the family that you do certain things, I'll do certain things, and I'll help, so that we help each other. And then came the third phase, where I call the phase of complete independence. Where I started doing a lot of things by myself. It's not by virtue of recovery, but altering the thought process that there is a different way of doing the same thing. Thanks to all the techniques and skills that I picked up in the first 2 years of my rehabilitation program, stints, and talking to different experts. And the last phase is what I call, as in my life right now that I'm going through, is a phase of giving back, where we are raising 2 kids, but also starting to do the community roles. I quit my corporate career about 3 years back. For 20 years, I was working with investment banks and IT companies. And from there on, in the last 3 years, I've been working in the social innovation space. So if you look at the entire transition, has to ask the question, and it asks the question, okay, this is compromise.
Okay, I really apologize for this fragmented presentation. I'll just summarize what he was trying to say. I think you would have got the gist of the message, that his life was transformed, and like Mary Verghese 60 years ago, here's another young man who has actually overcome enormous disability and enormous difficulty and has made that into something that is of great value to other people. He now helps to design appliances for people with disability. So a million apologies again for this broken up video, but I hope you get the sense of what I was trying to communicate, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir had given the glimpses of what a doctor, what a person from a small village can do a change to the society and come up in life also, and establishing such a big, wonderful system as well as a institution. I think you would have gone through a complete history of Dr. Mary Verghese also. Okay. So now I call upon our Professor U. Nandakumar Nair sir from Trivandrum. He's a retired professor from Raja Muttaya Medical College, and he will now have a discussion about a topic which you will be loving to know in depth also. Just I'm handing over the mic to Professor sir.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I always say, in fact, we have discussed also that if there is one person whose life brings tears to your eyes, is Dr. Mary Verghese. But then, as you were saying, from a trial to triumph story it is. I shall now move on to more happier things. I'll be speaking on element facial palsy and the language function. You must have all seen element facial palsy. It is generally known by the name Bell's palsy. And from the first year of your life, you would know Bell, Joseph Bell. The Bell's palsy takes his name. He is important for two other reasons also, because there's a nerve by his name, the Bell's nerve. And also, from him, a very important character was created, and that is, all of you must have heard, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes was a detective, so it's a unique connection between medicine and literature. So any of you have not read the stories of Sherlock Holmes, please do so before you pass the final exam, because it's absolutely important for you in your practice, how deduction and induction of little things can make changes in life. That's about Joseph Bell. So Bell's palsy, I will not speak about the anatomy and physiology of etc. Bell's palsy, but I'm trying to link Bell's palsy with something like language. Now, all of us know that when you talk, when you communicate an idea, we use non-verbal signals. Many people today consider that the non-verbal signals are as much as the verbal signals. It's almost 50-50, or maybe the non-verbal signals are slightly more. And therefore, if one part of the face is the only organ that you expose completely to the society. The other parts of the body are partly or fully covered. So the face is then extremely important object for communication as part of language. Now, if I am saying that this is my pen, I am standing like this and saying, this is my pen. it practically that sentence is complete, grammatically complete, but makes no sense to you. But if I say that this is my pen, so there is a non-verbal part of it. This creates meaning to that simple sentence, and it means several things. It means that this is my pen. It also means another pen which looks like this also would be a preferred pen for me. It also means that if you give me a choice of pens, I may pick a pen which looks like this. So there are different shades of meaning which can be constructed behind the simple sentence like this is my pen. With this or without this is my pen. So that's how non-verbal signals get into the ambit of communication. And it's a very strong thing. And for example, suppose I talk about, facial palsy, one side of the face looks like this. Now, I can say, I can speak about Bell's palsy with Bell's palsy. Or I can say, I can speak about a Bell's palsy without Bell's palsy. So these are two different things. So Bell's palsy does affect communication. Where you communicate is surely affected by the Bell's palsy. So if you can, so that's how it is different. Now the other point is that if a person has Bell's palsy, and then if there's a deviation, then it becomes uncomfortable for the others to look at him or her. You may either ignore that person, or you may stare at that person. Both are not good socially. At the social level, these are a little discomforting. So that is another problem of communication. So now, let us see, this Alex Martinez now say that basically we have only, once upon a time we knew that there were only two types of emotions, that is happiness and sadness, happy and sad. If you take an infant, the infant will instinctively know the happiness and sadness from the mother's face. Now today we know that all these can be identified by the facial expression. So these are all definitive evidences. In fact, facial expressions has been a big subject for discussion and study and research. In fact, right from Charles Darwin, people have been looking at facial expression. Charles Darwin has written an enormous book about facial expression and human grimaces and smiles, etc. So right from the 19th century, people have been studying about facial expression, and therefore, facial palsy has a unique place in understanding the nonverbal communication. So I will not read all these things, but I think you can keep in mind that there are at least 21 categories of emotions that can be studied by looking at the face, but people who are observant, people who casually observe faces will not be able to do so, but if you are a person who is interested in observing the face and emotions, you will surely know that this is interesting and this is important. Now, of course, that's the anatomy. Yeah. Now I'll put a video for you. Look at this video carefully.
ഇത് കണ്ടാൽ വിചാരിക്കും ഇതാണ് ശൃംഗേരി. എന്നിട്ട് ഇത് കണ്ടാൽ വിചാരിക്കും ഇതാണ് ശൃംഗേരി. എന്നിട്ട്
No, this is a dance performer artist who is a professional artist. Now you have just seeing how much of facial expressions she is using. Of course, these are not facial expressions that we commonly use, but we can pick up certain things, certain small things from her expressions, her ability to express with both sides of the face, and she is able to use almost all groups of muscles in a particular manner. That comes from training. We cannot do that, but then we should know that this carries a meaning. Even if you look at her, what is the emotion that she was trying to say? Anybody? What is the emotion that she is trying to?
ഇത് കണ്ടാൽ വിചാരിക്കും ഇതാണ് ശൃംഗേരി. എന്നിട്ട് ഇത് കണ്ടാൽ വിചാരിക്കും ഇതാണ് ശൃംഗേരി. എന്നിട്ട് ഇത് കണ്ടാൽ വിചാരിക്കും.
What was the emotion she was trying to portray? She was actually telling us how you can communicate sringara or love to other persons. Of course, this is an exaggerated type of facial expressions, very subtle, but yet not subtle enough. It's gross expressions, powerful expressions. That is how you communicate to an audience. This is not for a one-to-one communication. This is something you communicate on stage as a performance. So only then people at the back can actually see that and appreciate. And it is actually contextual. Most of the dance performances are contextual. But then you now see that how much of facial expressions are possible, how much of facial palsy, facial nerve integrity that is required for this type of presentation. Now, I'll show you another video. Can you show me the other video? Yeah. It's not showing. So just watch this. No sound is required. Just watch this. Can you stop it there? Don't delete it, just stop it. Now, anybody who can say what was being communicated between the old man and the young boy? What were they saying? What were they communicating? Any idea? Okay. Yeah, I have switched off the sound for this. It's actually, okay, you can play the remaining part. So here is an old man who doesn't want to be disturbed, and the young man is actually going after him. Yeah, he is actively telling him his stories, and the old man wants to return to his papers, and finally, yeah, something happens. So we do not require the language to actually get the meaning of what is happening. Yeah, because the way the boy, his body language actually changes. You look at, is there a change in the older man? If you follow his face, you will find that there is a slower change in the older man coming up, is it not? The older man becomes more friendly. He is actually accepting the younger person as somebody like himself. And perhaps he is thinking about the past. See? Look at that. See how facial expressions change. So if you have the language, spoken language, you do not realize that so many things can be learned from just looking at face. And that is what you lose when you have a lower motor neuron facial palsy. So that's why it is very important. Okay, excuse me, can you put on the next video? It is enough. There's one more video. Another one. So the non-verbal communication or facial communication, facial expressions can have the ability to transcend this generational gap. You have the same language, whether you are in India or Europe or America or Brazil, wherever it is, the facial expressions are almost the same. Most of the gestures are common. So if you learn to communicate through the face, you can cross the barrier of language. Yeah. That's an ad. That's part of the YouTube. It is free. The ad is free. can switch on the video, audio also. So this is about, we need the sound. Yeah, here is a person with a facial palsy. Sound is not coming. Okay, he's another performer. He's an artist who has won the Grammy Award. So it's a very important award. So he's a performer. So he got a type of facial palsy which is called the Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. So it's not very common that you find it. So how does it affect a person who is a performer? How does it affect a person who is a dancer or a singer or somebody who has to make, is a social media influencer? All these people would find it really difficult to navigate through life. That's what it is about. And he is actually trying to manage or negotiate this facial palsy as he is waiting for the recovery. It will take several weeks for recovery. It might take months for recovery. And there are a few cases of element facial palsy who might not recover at all. So that is rare. But by and large, we say that element facial palsies do recover. There is a hope. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Even in a small condition like an element facial palsy, you are actually faced with certain life situations, and that is what we think of in rehabilitation. When we speak about rehabilitation in the context of facial palsy rehabilitation, and that is what we think. So that's it from me. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for sharing us the real life scenario where you can see different types of people who will be under stress and how we can bring them back also. Fine. Now we have got our chief guest, Professor Dr. Abul Hassan, is IMA State President, has come here to see you all and share his views regarding IAPMR. And I call upon Professor Dr. Abul Hassan on stage. Please. Now I call upon Dr. Ajay Gupta, IAPMR State National President, on stage. Now I call upon, please be seated, sir. Now I call upon Dr. Sanjay Kumar Pandey, our IAPMR National Secretary. Please. Please take it. Now I call upon our academic chairman, Dr. A.K. Joy Singh, sir, from RIMS Imphal. Now I call upon Professor U. Singh, sir, is from, thank you, sir. Now we have the dais filled with Jains in the field of IAPMR. and physical medicine rehabilitation has been benefited and has made a changes in the society to improve the quality of life for all our people. Yes, sir. 1 second. Sir, welcome, sir. So now I call upon our principal, Dr. Subbarao sir. Please, sir. Thank you, sir. So, to make this event a more memorable event and make you understand what is PM&R, a specialty which is based on to improve the quality of life for the people in large across the world, we have the big team, and let us start with a small starting ceremony for this event. Open your third vision. This program has been formulated to just to make sure all our MBBS students get a knowledge about what is PM&R, what it can make a change in your life or in your patient's life through improving their quality of life. And now I call upon Dr. Abul Hassan sir to give a small speech regarding Open Your Third Vision program, as well as regarding the PM&R. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This side. Thank you, thank you. I convey my hearty wishes to all the dignitaries on the dais, on the floor, and my dear students. I'm very happy to be here on the 52nd conference of Indian Association of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. Incidentally, apart from President of Indian Medical Association Tamil Nadu State for this year 2024, I am also the chairman of Junior Doctors Wing of the whole country. So my job is to mainly to see the younger generation of medicos, younger generation of medical professionals in the country. All across the country, I travel and meet. I almost visited almost half of the medical colleges in this country today. And see, when we started our association, in 1928, almost we are going to observe centenary year in another 4 years' time. 1928, it was started only to join the freedom struggle, to gather all the doctors available at the point of time in our country and extended support to our leaders. That was the objective. Now you know the function of IMA today. It's a kind of, we had conferences, scientific programs, academic events, kind of social activities, all these things. Now we have come to a situation of a kind of employees union, kind of protecting our rights, rise and then protect our rights in this country. So this is a kind of transformation that happened in the medical association over these years, right? And we have so many challenges. As you all know, that there was announcement from National Medical Commission, which is the super body of governing the medical education in our country, wanted to put a next exam. The NEET is going on already. NEET UG, NEET PG, NEET SSS, everything is there. And they are almost settled. Only thing is, the timing of this examination we had to intervene, whether to hold it at correct time or postpone it depending on the situation. This is new, very new. That is next. Now I would like to ask you, how many of you are aware of this next exam? National Exit Test. How many of you are aware? Right. How many of you want it? How many of you want it? So probably you are confused. You are not, 100% aware what is this next exam. I take this, while I was coming here, I was thinking that definitely there will be lots of students who will like to know what is this going on in the medical education. This is the very great news. It's a big change that government is trying to do in this country with regards to medical education. That is next. It is included in the national education policy, right? This is nothing but combining the final year examination, PG entrance examination, and another examination called a licentiate examination. One single examination at the end of your final year, that performance will be taken for 3 spheres, right? And you will have to write all the subjects of MBBS, starting from anatomy, physiology, at a final year, right? There are so many other things. So IMA represented that this next exam should be deferred for the time being, because if there is a uniform examination for all the medical colleges, all the medical graduates, students of this country, the education also should be uniform, isn't it? The facilities also should be uniform. The faculties also should be uniform. There are colleges which started only 2 years back. There are colleges who started within a 10 years period. There are 50% of our medical colleges in our country are very young, very, very young. They are still fighting for its faculties. So if AIMS is asked to conduct an examination for all the medical graduates, and people who are studying in renowned and very senior colleges, they will perform better, and they will take high marks for the PG entrance exam. There will not be a level playing field. That was the argument put forth, especially by me as the chairman of the Young Doctors Wing on July 1st of 2023. So the NMC deferred at that point of time. So 6 months there, now again they have taken up, right? And there are, yesterday evening also we had a discussion about it. And 7th is the last day. Last date they have kept it for getting opinion from all of you. Probably you are not aware that the thing is open till February 7th. You can give your feedback whether you want it or not. If you want it, how you want it. You must know this and get a link and give your feedback, right? Depending upon that, hopefully the government will take a decision. The IMA also will give its final. This. Right, that is one aspect. Secondly, coming to the physical medicine and rehabilitation. This is one of the very young discipline in our country, and it is growing. And for the young doctors, we have already kept career counseling webinars in our platform, Young Doctors Wing. And many of faculties from your field had spoken already the scope of physical medicine and rehabilitation in our country. We are giving this counseling for all the disciplines. So this also we included very recently. And so I am very happy that now we have got a very rare of this kind exposure, I should say, to such a discipline today in Coimbatore, in your place, Many of you are Coimbatore students, I know. And please utilize this opportunity in the another 3 days, no? Another 3 days, you will have a lot of things, scientific feast regarding this physical medicine and rehabilitation. So I wish all of you have a very great time here in Coimbatore. And also, as I said initially, please go through this exit feedback form, and it is open to all the students, and you can get the link and give your opinion. And because, as I said earlier, it's a very, very great and very important change. If at all the government is wanting to change it, it will be a very great impact on you. And you know, probably you may have to, apart from studying inside the college campuses, you may have to reach out to various coaching centers for kind of cracking this next exam, which is going to be a very, very complicated exam. As that's what they have mentioned, I know, the real-time scenario testing, all these things. Anyway, we are here, the Junior Doctors Wing and Medical Students Network of IMA, to help you to keep this everything in the right track. And we will be also, will be always supportive of all the students. And we see that our younger generation have a very good future in our country. And also we are going to establish, should mention here, that we are going to establish a Young Doctors Employment Exchange, right? Young Doctors Employment Exchange for all the opportunities available in India and also overseas, right? I am the one who is organizing this very great project in the platform of Indian Medical Association. So once you finish your MBBS, finish your house agency, you can register there in the Young Doctors Employment Exchange, and then you can get opportunities to work here and also work abroad. So once again, I thank Dr. Challa Kumaraswamy, who is from my place. We are practicing in the same place called E Road. I know him very well, and he is doing a very good job. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Challa Kumaraswamy. I know him for several decades, and we are all growing together in E Road city. His field is different, my field is different, but we are all very busy, you know, place. And I congratulate him for giving such a wonderful academic feast for the people of Coimbatore. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, thank you, sir. Thank you for elaborating about our IMA and its role here. It's all for you, students and MBBS graduates. You are growing up, and like our seniors, they are getting ready the platform and getting ready the really the runway for you to take off in a bigger way. So, one round of big applause for Dr. Abul Hasan sir. I call upon Dr. Ajay Gupta, our National President, IAPMR National President, to honor our Dr. Abul Hasan sir, IMA State President. Thank you, sir. now I call upon Dr. Verghese sir to hand over the mementos. Our faculties who have started the speech, now he will give away the mementos, and we will continue the session after this thing. I call upon Sir Suranjan sir, Professor Suranjan sir, Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharya ji, please sir. Now, Professor UN Nair sir, please sir. Dr. A.K. Jai Singh sir. Professor U Singh sir. Professor Dr. Ajay Gupta sir. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Pandey sir. Professor Dr. Ramamurthy sir. Professor Dr. S.L. Yadav sir. Our principal, Professor Dr. Subbarao sir, for a felicitation by our IMA President. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us and giving a great insight into the young minds of our college students as well as graduates from in and around Coimbatore. So now the function gets over and we'll proceed further with the talk. I'm handing over the mic to Professor Dr. A.K. Jai Singh, sir. Yes. We can be off the rise. It's your stage, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello, young doctors. So, probably with the speech, with the class speech of Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharya sir, your third eye must have started opening. I want to put some eye drop to make it clear about the bedridden. Meaning thereby, after the, when you are trained in sports medicine, you can be specialized in cardiac rehabilitation, neuro rehabilitation, musculoskeletal rehabilitation, pain rehabilitation, pulmonary rehabilitation. You can go almost everywhere, and I have chosen sports medicine rehabilitation. Just having PMR, there's the beginning, you can be specialized in many other fields. In addition to the sports medicine, I learned the art and science. I acquired knowledge and the practice of the management of bedridden from none other than my best teacher, my mother, who has been bedridden for about little more than 4 years by now. So now she doesn't recognize me. Unless I catch hold of her hand, probably she recognizes me. So that much is where she is now. So I learned the art, the science of bedridden from this mother, lovely mother. In continuation to Sir Suranjan's a little bit introduction, I want to put some small salient features of the PMR, so-called physical medicine and rehabilitation. Sir said, we don't focus, though we cannot say we don't focus. We don't focus on signs and symptoms just like any other clinical medicine. We focus on the quality of life that Sir has given emphasis. So this is the difference. Our focus of PMR is to improve the quality of life of the patients, of the persons, at wherever they are. In doing that, difference from other again, we need to understand what is the need of the person, what person needs. In doing so, trying to find out this, most of the time, this is called a role reversal. You need to take the position of the other person and start looking from their side. What if you become a patient and what could be the difficulties? Once you know the position role reversal, then probably rehabilitation is successful because you know what they really need. This is not given in books. Books has given something. So only practice and practice will learn. Then another one is in rehab, we need 2 capital T. One, the first T is like, okay. So I'll talk like this. Okay. So one is about the training and other things. And most important thing I wanted to tell you is the compassionate touch is very, very important in rehabilitation. That will open many physical and emotional channels. So that is what is important. So let me come to the importance of the management of the bedridden. So when do you say that person is bedridden? Is there anyone here among the students who has a bedridden family member? Is there? Can you raise your hand? Any bedridden family members? If you have one, you share how you care. Then they will learn. Your friends will learn better. Okay? So when a person loses his capability to stay and work, confined to bed due to sickness, or maybe there are many other formulas. This is not equivalent to bed rest. So it is just like, bedridden is just like you are in underground chamber during wartime, where you have to sleep, eat, toileting, and the contrasting thing is you eat, sleep, and you worship also. So everything is done in the same room. the four-wall syndrome. So there are many other issues coming up. One of the most important thing, you need to listen to because you have to answer a few of the questions and you have to get a prize, okay? You please to listen to what I am speaking. So when person doesn't move, then one of the commonest problem that you come across is the pressure injuries at the side where there are pressures. Pressures causes strangulation. It is most commonly the side where there are bony prominences are there. When you don't move, when the person doesn't move, the spine becomes stiff. There will be deformity in the position of convenience, mostly in flexion. So when you don't use a limb, it leads to the dystrophy. We call this disuse atrophy. There will be wasting of the muscles. When you don't strain, we don't use the limb, then it leads to the loss of bone mineral density. And there will be bladder dysfunction. It may be in form of incontinence. There will be bowel dysfunction because of the hypomobility, or so many other problems. Another common problem is deep vein thrombosis. Then another is, there are infections are equally common. There are lung infections, urinary tract infections, and pressure injuries. And most important, above all, is lack of social interaction. Patients are isolated, and they are seen, the battle is lost when person lost his or her autonomy, and they started feeling that they are a burden to society, and they completely lost when you also as a doctor started feeling that person is a burden. So, in a study in northern India, so it was found that 82% of the bedridden patients are taken care of by the family members who are untrained. And bed sores, that is pressure injuries, are the commonest problem associated with bedridden. Next, urinary tract infection. So what do we need while taking care of the bedridden? This is what we learn from the parents and from looking after the patients. We need vigilance and continuous attention. We don't have to do SOS type of examination. We need a continuous examination. Most important is compassionate approach. Patients, compassionate approach. Environment must be comfortable. Practice of good hygiene for the patient and by the caregiver, they are equally important. And giving balanced diet also important. Many of them are on medication, they must be properly managed. Prevention of the bed sore is a prime important. Regular and bowel and bladder care is also very important. So most important to avoid this social isolation is keep the person engaged. You need to talk to the person, be with them, talk to them, discuss with them, enjoy with them. And when you have problem, communicate to the healthcare providers. Then safety of the patient is again important. This is, I use the word unfolding of the mystery. My mother also sleeps like this. But when you remove the blanket, you will be mystified, like the smell you have. You will know. The moment you open this, so long as it's covered, she's okay. The moment you open, you will smell unique smell. Combination of urine, stool, and pressure sore. So that is happening. So that must be taken care of. So this is a very unsightly, pictures, but it happens. It happens because we don't move. Because when we sleep, we move around because we are uncomfortable. This person cannot move because they cannot move or they don't sense. Somebody they sense they cannot move because they are weak. Somebody they cannot sense so they cannot move. So in both ways, when there is strangulation of the blood supply, especially capillaries, then there is loss of the nutrition to the muscles, leading to the death of the tissues. It is commonly known as now pressure injuries. Once it happens, most of the money is lost in this management of this. And very difficult to manage also, it takes time also, and infection is very commonly associated problems. Another common associated problem is the deep vein thrombosis. We have a big heart on the left side of the chest, And we have another heart that is peripheral heart, that is in the calf. When there is paralysis, this second heart doesn't function. There is stasis of the blood. When there is Verghese triad, when there is stasis, vessel wall damage, hypercoagulability, deep vein thrombosis happen. Many of your patient, my patient, will develop deep vein thrombosis unless mobilized properly. So the only dictum in the treatment of the bedridden patient is mobilize, 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 and position them properly. Positioning, mobilize, and position them. That is very, very important thing. They must be mobilized. So these are some of the positions where in supine position, in lateral position, and in prone lying, how can you ask somebody to lie? These are the possible positions. These are the possible, like, we want to avoid pressures. So mattresses are one of the answers, not all the answers. Because there are many other than pressures that is important, like the shearing and frictions, moisture, they are important things, but mattress also help to reduce pressure sores, pressure injuries. So in the community, water mattress or roho mattress, they are available easily, and they are probably the answers. Wherever the electrical powers are good, alternating pressure air mattresses are also good. They are not very costly. Mobilize, mobilize, and mobilize. That will, you can avoid from the development of the stiffness of the joints, and it will increase the blood circulation, and you are giving time to the patient. That is, again, more important to a disabled person. And don't allow patient to use a pillow or something beneath the knee, because that leads to the development of the hip and knee contractures, inflection, and head deformities. This is to be avoided. But don't forget to mobilize both upper and lower limb. That will avoid many of the complications later on. So we are human machines, we are engines, we are to be fitted just like the engines, the vehicles with fuel. We need fuel, we need nutrition. So nutrition is given when a person can eat, can swallow, you can feed orally. When person cannot do that, nasogastric, we can put a rice tube and do it. Not possible with that, you can make an opening to the stomach and intestine through abdomen. That is known as gastrostomy or jejunostomy. That can be done. When these are not possible, not sufficient, then we go for the parenteral nutritions. So next is the constipation is a problem, because the autonomic nervous system is not working properly. The entire abdominal wall muscles are also not proper now because it is weak. So constipation has become a problem. So we commonly remove the constipated fecal matters by manually. We can remove it. If not possible at times, we also use, sometimes we call rectal suppository. We put it inside the anal canal, or then either it irritates or it retains water that would produce production of the the fecal impacted matters will come out, or we go for the enema. Same thing, either it will irritate or it will retain water. It will cause stress in the rectum, and it will lead to the defecation. Please remember, one reflex that we use in the management of bowel management is gastrocolic reflex. When you take something in the stomach, there is mass movement in the colon, leading to the mobility of the fecal matters. It usually happen, but more effective in about 30 minutes time. So we use this reflex in the treatment of the patient. One more important thing that we must understand, we should not do enema or suppositories very frequently. Why? Because there are two plexuses. You will be seeing two plexuses. One plexus here. Okay, it will be very complicated for you. There is one plexus that is submucosal, that is called Meissner's plexus. One plexus called myenteric. So this submucosal plexus is destroyed by repeated enema. Therefore, it is better to avoid enema in most of the circumstances. So for draining the bladder, if patient can pass urine, well and good. If patient cannot pass urine, we may have to put a catheter through the urethra. If urethra is a problem, is injured, or there is strictures, then we put it just above the pubic bone. We call it suprapubic catheterization. You can do that. Otherwise, there is another system to avoid incontinence in between the catheterization. We also do external urinary catheter. So these are some of the catheters that we commonly use. These are indwelling catheters, and the first is the latex. Next is intermittent catheter. Now we are going towards more and more towards the intermittent catheterization, because once you do continuous catheterization, bladder become very small. We wanted to have a physiological bladder in terms of the expansion and contraction, and there we use intermittent catheterization. This is the common norm. We don't use, I cannot say that we don't use anymore indwelling catheter. We use, but most of the time in chronic patient is going to be intermittent catheterization. There are some catheters. There was one question where you change catheter every 14 days. Okay, so indwelling catheters, especially latex, especially these are changed. These are Teflon. They are changed. So every 2 weeks to 2 to 4 weeks, you have to change it. But there are new catheters coming, made up of silicone, that they may be there in the bladder for 2 months to 3 months. You can, in between, you can change. So every 2 months changing is quite okay. It is not very frequent. So there are many good catheters quality, and there are catheters coming with hydrogel film, where putting is easy, and it is protects from infection also. Yes, coming to lungs. Many of the patients, especially paralysis from neck downwards, the mortality, they die because of the respiratory tract infection. One of the reasons why, because there are lots of the secretions from the bronchial tract. It is to be coughed out. It is important to humidify the air that is entering, but it is not coughed out routinely. So it is trickled down, and it blocks. It blocks some of the alveoli, leading to the development of pneumonia and others, collapse of the lungs, pneumonia. So if you see the bronchial tree, there are 10 on the right side and the left. There are 9 bronchopulmonary segments. They lie in different positions. So to drain them, you have to position patients in different angles, in different positions. So what we do, if you see pulmonary care, we moisturize the secretions. We moisturize the bronchial secretions. By moisturizing, we try to dislodge the secretions by the method called the cuffing methods and vibration method that is shown on the left side of this. This is vibration, this is cuffing. We try to remove. After that, we try to drain by keeping them, we put them for postural drainage, and ultimately we assist them to cup out. This is what we do in pulmonary care of the patients. In between, we also do strengthening exercises and pulmonary expansion by using insert the spirometer. You can do both inspiration and expiration, and we give more spaces on inspiration because expiration is a passive process. So it tells you what you do. But like for a person like my mother who cannot sit, I wash my mother with towel with warm water every part of the body, but she cannot sit. That is, cleanliness is one part of the treatment, important. The cleanliness of the linen, cleanliness of the part patient is very important thing. Why it is important? Because that also gives time to the patient. So in some of the instances where there are facilities, standing is good, but because of the failure of the autonomic nervous system, somebody, when you ask them to sit, allow them to sit, they collapse. And the condition is not as orthostatic hypotension. This can be relieved. Autonomic nervous system can be trained by using a treat table. So what is the priority of the bedridden patients? So the priority in the treatment of the bedridden patients are, you prevent bed injuries, they prevent pressure injuries by frequent position changing. Then position them and mobilize all the joints every day. Feeding balanced diet is very, very important. Personal hygiene of the person and of the caregivers are very, very important. cleanliness is rule in the management of the bedridden patient. Bladder and bowel care regularly, and most important is keep the patient engaged. That is again very important. So this is the question you are going to answer. So just look at this question. So I'll take one example of the paralysis below neck downwards. Another person is just weak, cannot walk. When a person has got a spinal cord injury, one of the first and foremost important thing is turning over the bed every 2 hourly. It remains. Okay, this is when the person is paralyzed from neck downwards. Both upper limbs are not working, lower limbs are not working. Rise tube feeding to ensure nutrition. This is not relevant in this type of patient because patient can eat and swallow. So it is not required here. It is, unless acute, it is not required. Prophylactic antibiotic to prevent infection. Infections are common, understood. But how long you will continue the antibiotics? Because antibiotics are very prone to develop resistance. Once resistance develops, it is a problem by itself. So since there is no time limitation for preventive prophylactic antibiotic, this is not, it was practiced in 90s, we were giving trimethoprim and others in urinary tract infections and all. Now we are not giving. So prophylactic antibiotic is not given. So change your urinary catheter every 14 days. This is also one of the answers. This is true in acute stages, but we are not promoting indwelling catheter to a patient with spinal cord injury. Once the acute stage is over, we are promoting intermittent catheterization of the patient. So this also answer doesn't hold good in this patient. Coming to the weakness, due to any other reasons, patient is not able to walk, mobilize, turning bed remains. Turning bed too early remains. My mother doesn't know whether she is hungry or not, but she still eats without a rise tube. I never put her on prophylactic antibiotic, and she can pass urine. So there is no question of changing of the catheter in 14 days. So probably the consensus for this question probably is the turning over in bed for every 2 hourly. And this is to be remembered. This answer is to be remembered. A person who is bedridden due to many other reasons must be mobilized. This should be the lesson for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for elaborating about a person who is bedridden. How can we change their life to improve their quality of life? Now I call upon Dr. Anupama to share her experience regarding life with disability. Please, sir.
So good evening to you all. We have a lot more in store. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I don't have a presentation. I'm here to tell you how I enjoy this subject and why I think this is a great field for all of us to consider. As a young medical student, or when I finished my MBBS, like most of you probably, I had no idea what physical medicine and rehab was. I was studying for my common entrance exams. I had 6 months to waste. I saw my dad having a shoulder problem. He loved gardening and he couldn't do it. So he kept going to the orthopedic surgeon. They kept giving him diclofenac. He came back and he looked at me saying, okay, what do I do? You are the physician, tell me what to do. And I just raised my hands and I said, I don't know, go to the orthopedic surgeon. And as I was sitting there, I saw this ad. I think it was in a newspaper, which said, Senior House Officer at St. John's Hospital, Bangalore. So I said, what is there for me to lose? I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. I said, I have 6 months, let me see what this is. So Senior House Officer, Physical Medicine Rehab, St. John's Hospital, Bangalore. Physical medicine, I know what physical therapy is, and I knew my dad needed it. So I said, I'm going to go learn physical therapy. And because nobody taught me that in medical school, it wasn't part of our curriculum. I went in there, met Dr. Kurian, and the first question he asked me is, what is PMR? And I proudly said, physical therapy. He sniggered just like many of us do now, and started my journey in physical medicine rehab. And I did get that position. He later told me that there was another person who was supposed to get that position, but he saw that here was this crazy lady who came in here considering it to be something, but he wanted to educate me and see what the potential was for me. So he asked the other candidate, who was his internal candidate, why don't you come 2 months later? Let's take this candidate now. And there I was learning about physical medicine rehab. I mean, the patients whom you meet when you're doing physical medicine rehab, they are your source of enlightenment. They remind you why you became a physician, how you can make changes. There's one thing that you can always be assured of. Any patient who comes to a physiatrist leaves feeling better than what they felt like when they came to you. And that's what I saw. They were all disabled, definitely not able to have a life that they planned for themselves in the future, but there with hope, enthusiasm, like you saw Justin, just living like anybody else. And that's when I decided that this may be a field. I went to CMC Vellore, wrote my ophthalmology and PM&R exams. I did get called for the test in ophthalmology, but I chose PM&R. And here I am. So that's my story, but what I'm representing here today is two things. One is women in PM&R. It's a great field for women, for men too. I mean, you have 9 men here talking about it, and here's me, one person, saying how important this is for women. Take, for example, let's take this scenario. We say, hey, let's go to a movie. What does a woman do? I'll talk for the women, and I'll say, let's go to the movie. Let's find out what the story is. Let's figure out where we're going to eat. Who are the people who are going to go with us? What time is this going to end? Let's make sure we get enough rest and be ready for tomorrow. This is what a woman brain thinks. What does a man brain think? The men here can defend, but I think the man brain thinks, okay. So that's what going to a movie would mean, because that is what is needed. So in PM&R, you can do what a woman brain likes to do. Just be in control of a lot of things. So PM&R looks into different aspects. So there's the musculoskeletal aspect, there's the neurological aspect, there's the orthopedic, rheumatological, like Dr. Joy said, there's the medical aspect, there's pediatrics, there's biotech. I mean, it is huge. It can just take you in the direction that you want to go, at the pace that you want to be, and find your niche, because it's not easy. It's not easy to know what your niche is when you finish your 10th grade or your 12th grade. It's not easy to know what your niche is when you graduate or finish medical school. So if you are the kind who always wants to learn and keep growing, this would be your field. So that's the women. I mean, some of it is not, common for the men too. And the other part is how PM&R helps you grow. So taking my own story, I never wanted to leave India. This is it. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to serve. Being with people was my goal, but I met my husband. He said, okay, United States it is. And I said, okay, because what else am I going to say? But it's always been my dream to be part of, this is where my heart is, and to come back here in whatever form I can. And he told me one important thing. He said, do you think staying in the country is the only way you can provide? See what you can do by, spreading your wings. Maybe you can do more, and that's what PM&R has allowed me to do. So I finished my post-graduation here, moved to the United States, did my residency there, again, at a very good school. Whatever I learned here definitely got me a great place there without being an internal candidate there. And I'm back here now trying to do whatever I can in whatever form I can. So when you have these two worlds to play around with, what I want to say is this field, it's possible. My learning here was different from my learning there. When I went there, they were surprised with all the things that we do here. And whatever I've learned there, I'm able to bring back here. And I see that it's totally usable here. It's already being used here. There's a great, the collaboration, the global medical field, standardizing care across the globe, I would say, is something that we can try to do in the field of PM&R. Lastly, what I want to say is, when we get into medicine, medicines become so specialized that you start taking care of a part of the body, like you're the eye doctor, or the ear doctor, the nose doctor, or the heart doctor. It's hard for the PM&R doctor to define ourselves. They ask you, are you a physiotherapy doctor? Are you a nerve doctor? It's hard. So the best way would be, if you think that quality of life is what you want to focus on, this is the field that will let you focus. So with those few words, I would like to say thank you, and hope some of you will be my colleagues in the future. Thank you.
It's nice. Nice gesture, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for sharing your views with a gesture with all our budding doctors who can take up the specialty also in later years. Now I call upon Professor Using, sir. To deliver his talk on it.
A very good afternoon. I hope that you are not that bold. To begin with, I'll try to show you a small video. Oh. What happened? Somebody else is doing it?
Yes.
Try and notice how this lady is being.
मैंने मामी की वीडियो खींच ली.
This lady is suffering from paraplegia. Weakness in both the lower extremities, absolutely no power.
कैसा लगा?
मजा आया भाभी? Talking about paraplegia, you might have heard.
कैसा लगा मैम आपको? बहुत बढ़िया. मजा आ गया.
So, the question comes, why did I show this video? Did we want to talk about some kind of a prevention that she could have fallen and had paraplegia or something else? Or what is the cause of, most common cause of paraplegia? Was it the cause of the injury in her? Or was it for the sake of fun that I wanted to attract your attention onto seeing something adventurous being done by a person? We know that if somebody falls, and some kind of injury may occur, and vertebral injury is one of them, in addition to, you can have spinal cord injury, brain injury, injury to the limb or the viscera. And here, spinal cord injury, we have seen patients is one of the important things, maybe we are talking about that. And when somebody has injury to the spinal cord because of it, because of an infection, because of a compression, because of something, the person may have paraplegia just like this lady has. And we also learned that when you lose some control, which is passing through the spine, the impulses passing through the spine, you have neurogenic bladder or neurogenic bowel. And if I remember during my MBBS days, when we learned about paraplegia, we talked about the spastic paraplegia, the flaccid paraplegia, paraplegia and extension or flexion, and then we maybe heard about catheterization. And this is all that we knew. And somebody, in case they were lucky, they would have heard about how to manage the neurogenic bladder and bowel. You heard Dr. Joy talk about it, and pressure ulcers and the neurogenic bladder and bowel. Do we know beyond managing the pressure ulcers, bladder and bowel, what else we have to do? And how would the patient live? You have seen examples given by Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharya, and how does the family react? It's very devastating to see somebody tied down to the bed and not able to move. And I remember the very first case of quadriplegia, tetraplegia I saw. He was a C4-5 fracture dislocation, and he fell from a horse. And he had total paraplegia, and he was gasping. He was catching for breath because the phrenic nerve was also involved. And you know the treatment offered at that particular moment, I'm talking of 1977. I was a house surgeon. He was advised a head halter, and which was not given for almost 24 hours, and he was sent home the next morning simply to say, Seva karo, do some service, we can't do anything. And what happened next, we really don't know. Probably he would have died a couple of days later. Coming back to this lady in the video, she had LGB syndrome the night after the marriage. Like, she got married on Sunday, the Monday night they had a party, and she woke up with paraplegia the next morning because of LGB syndrome. Of course, she was taken to the hospital, given steroids and the IV gamma globulins, which is the thing. And after that, what happened? 10 days later, she came to PMR. Naturally, because the treatment is over, we don't know whether she's going to recover or not. And what more can be done? So that was the thing. Do you know what more can be done? Of course, in case you heard Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharya, Dr. Joy Singh, that there's a lot that can be done for the person who has paralysis. So we assessed the patient, did the goal setting with the husband and the family, and a lot of counseling. The husband brought his wife in his arms. She was just 22 years old and husband 25 years old. They were very good friends for quite a couple of years. And after looking at the lady, I really felt like crying, because a young bride being carried and not being able to stand, not even enjoyed a single night at home. And I took the husband to the side and told him, look, I will treat only on one condition, that you promise that you will not leave your wife, because that is what happens most commonly when somebody, one of the spouses, especially a lady, gets paralyzed. You might have seen quite a few movies, and you might have seen how people with disabilities are sent to the hospital and never brought back home, and they just abandon them there. And we trained her to stand and walk with the calipers, as you see a close-up of the calipers here. And she started walking with the calipers and the crutches, and we also used a wheelchair around, and she was actively doing all her activities of daily living, which were important for that point of time. In the further steps towards rehabilitation, we had to adapt her home. She had steps, so we had to remove the steps and put ramps to let the wheelchair go by. Then she was a new bride. New bride is supposed to make a good meal the next morning or a day when they introduce her to the kitchen, and she was not even able to stand at that particular moment. And the new bride also had issues with sexuality. If you have experienced or seen people having sex, how you know how much activity is involved in that. So we had to guide the husband and the wife both in that. And then with a great difficulty, she became pregnant, and having no power in the lower extremity and part of the abdomen and the pelvis, childbirth was again a difficult thing. And then imagine a person on a wheelchair or walking on a calipers, rearing a child. So all these issues had to be conveyed and carried on. And so this is the lady with the child on and how the child was growing up and managed on the wheelchair. Many forget that when somebody has some severe ailment, there are many psychological reactions, as Dr. Nair told in the beginning. So lot of stresses around in the family and in the society, the people around who would talk about all kinds of odd things and say, what a useless lady, she can't even do this. And then what kind of work and employment the person can get with such kind of a mobility. And people simply forget about recreation. So you saw this video having a lot of enjoyment, fulfilling recreative activity by the person who had paraplegia. So this lady walks with the calipers, using a walker, can use also the crutches, but at the same time, she is an entrepreneur. She does go to the trade exhibitions, sells things. She designs book covers. Her family business is publication, so she designs book covers. She is a loving wife. Mother of one child, they never tried to have another one because it was very difficult for them to carry on with that. She runs the family and the home. And she also, this is the loving husband, she also tried to help us design the cover of the Indian Journal of Physical Medicine Rehabilitation long time ago when I was the editor. So in case you go further, she drives a car, hand-propelled, and she loves to travel, goes around different places as you have seen in this video. She also does adventure sports, as you said. But she still doesn't have power in the legs. It's been about 20 years now that she was paralyzed. She enjoys with her son, who has grown up quite a bit, and she is driving the car, her husband, and unfortunately the husband also got a stroke in young and is also hemiplegic. He also drives a car along with, so both husband and wife are unfortunate in the sense that both had some kind of a disability, but they were still able to manage well. So important thing is disregard the disability, enjoy the life, live the life, and this is how you see this lady enjoying the life along with the family, the children, and having, on the left you have the mother-in-law who was extremely difficult to manage in the beginning because she wanted to get rid of the young wife, daughter-in-law, who had paralysis, who couldn't even stand up to make a cup of tea for the husband, and the mother of the family support is the most important thing which needs to be done whenever you are managing a person with any kind of a weakness, paralysis, disability, or a grave disorder. So how was this possible? Naturally, only physical medicine and rehabilitation can do such kind of a thing. Nobody else in the medical specialties can look at the quality of life that we can give to the persons. So if we go by the definition of WHO, you see, we have combined and coordinated approach. We try to restore the person back to life, to their fullest physical, mental, social, and vocational aspects to as far extent as it is possible. We can't say that we can restore fully, but we can do some bit to restore to the best possible manner. So we have to work with the patient, the family, and a team of people in the rehabilitation. Going into the definition of health, we talked about physical medicine rehabilitation. WHO also talks about that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. And coming back to the definition of PMR, we have all the components of health, which no other specialty can claim. We have more than health as well. So this is the beauty of PMR, that we look at health holistically, irrespective of what a person is suffering from. So that's the beauty of PMR, the only specialty of medicine that looks after health to the letter. And at the same time, we try to make the person live their life, not just having a life. And to understand rehabilitation, we had quite a few lectures. To treat a disease, we understand its pathology, and to treat disability, we need to understand the genesis of disability, and we need to understand what is disability, which is also one of the questions in the quiz. We know this, how the disease comes after a normal person has some kind of etiology, leads to a pathology, and goes on to have a disease. And the disease may lead on to some kind of an impairment, and the impairment leads on to some difficulty in performance of the function, and which may lead on to disability. We'll try to understand all these. Now take an example of an amputation. Somebody had trauma, they had a crushed leg, and the crushed leg had to be amputated, and because of the amputation, the person had difficulty walking or unable to walk, and naturally unable to go to work, unable to go to school, unable to go and to the cinema hall or things like that. So how do we prevent this disability? Or we understand another example, stroke. You have ischemia, you had a stroke, you lead on to paralysis of one side of the body, and the person again has difficulty to walk, difficult to eat, difficult to write, difficult to speak, or inability to go to work, inability to go and meet friends and things like. So that is how we understand the disability, looking at the things what happens on the left. To understand the terms, what is impairment? Impairment denotes the structural or the functional deficits, which are the anatomical, physiological, or psychological. We'd say loss or and an abnormality based on these three things. So examples of impairment are paralysis or reduced perfusion in the brain, or high blood sugar, cognitive loss like that. So losing a limb, having an amputation. The difficulty to perform a function because of an impairment, like walking, holding, seeing, speaking, writing. So all these things, hearing, these are the limitations of functions which happen because of an impairment. These are also called activity limitation in the modern terminology. And disability, which we very commonly hear, but we hardly understand it well, which are nowadays also called participatory restrictions, because participation in the day-to-day activity which the normal person is doing, like in case we are unable to perform those activities, like in case I am a doctor, I get up from home, come to the office, see my patients, go back at home, go to the market, buy stuff in the evening, go out for a movie, or meet my friends or relatives, go for a wedding party, and whatever is due as a human being for me to do, if I'm unable to do those according to my background, according to my age, according to my sex, that means I am disabled. So inability is the key word here to participate in the activities. So in case we take this example and see the genesis of disability, you have seen the case of amputation. In case in an amputation you give an artificial leg, the person will be able to walk and he will not be having any functional limitation. So since he is able to walk, he will be able to go to work and he will not have disability, even though he may have an impairment. So just giving an artificial limb to a person with amputation and training him well can reduce down the disability, can be one step in reducing the disability. He may have an impairment. Similarly in stroke, in case you have stroke and you control their lipids and diabetes or the risk factors, the pathology can be reduced. The person may have stroke in the beginning, and in case it's an ischemic stroke and you give the anticoagulants or the TPA, then the disease may also be reversed to quite an extent. And in case for the paralysis, you give exercises, a brace or a cane for the person to walk, he may not have an impairment. And similarly, the inability to walk will become ability to walk, giving all this support, and the functional limitation will not be there, so he will be able to go out and meet friends and not have any disability. So disability will be reduced. The disease may be reversed to some extent in case you have given TPA depending upon how bad the infarction was, and even the pathology may be reversed to quite an extent. A few patients may also come back to normal. So this is how we understand the genesis of disability. So looking at rehabilitation definition once again, you see that we have 4 aspects: physical, mental, social, and vocational. We're trying to reduce down and restore the person into all these 4 aspects, trying to bring them back to normal. And we try to make the person get back to society, get back to life, to live their life. So that is what we understand from rehabilitation and disability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now that we are coming into the last part of the session, sir had given a clear introduction about what is disability, what is impairment, and what is rehabilitation also. Hope you all have got a message. And now, as a last, our HOD, PM&R department, PSG Medical College, IMS&R, Professor Dr. Rammoorthy sir, please come on the stage, sir. A topic on diabetic foot and related things.
Good evening to all. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Okay. The scope for rehabilitation specialist in diabetology practice. Okay. Diabetology practice is like digging in the gold mine. Okay. The gold mine, more and more you dig, more and more gold you will get. Similarly, in diabetology practice, if you involve yourself more, the avenues for learning as well earning is more, which we will see. Okay. The complications of diabetes from head to foot, you have cerebrovascular disease, then diabetic retinopathy, cardiovascular disease, diabetic nephropathy, peripheral vascular disease, and diabetic neuropathy. Most of the complications will kill a patient. But there are many musculoskeletal complications of diabetes that may not kill the patient, but they will make the person handicapped, like adhesive capsulitis, pain and stiffness of the shoulder, plantar fasciitis, heel pain, Charcot neuroarthropathy, diffuse idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis, carpal tunnel syndrome, Dupuytren's contracture, flexor denosynovitis, and limited joint mobility. A physician with knowledge in physical medicine rehabilitation has a scope in treating all these conditions. In frozen shoulder, it is called adhesive capsulitis, where the shoulder capsule is contracted. So the patient will have pain and shoulder stiffness. So in the management of pain, we have non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs. Then if it is not responding, you can give intra-articular steroid. Then to stretch out the capsule, there are several exercise programs. Even after exercises, if the capsule is not relaxing, then you can manually, under anesthesia, stretch the capsule, called manipulation under anesthesia. Similarly, in plantar fasciitis, a patient will have heel pain. Whenever we have body pain, when we go to bed, the next day morning, we get up as normal person. But here, the patient wakes up with pain. That's a clear indication the patient has inflammatory pain. So the patient has a tear in the plantar fascia. So you have a pain in the medial calcaneal area. So we have drugs. Apart from that, we can give intra-articular steroid and several footwear modifications like arch support, heel pads, night span given. So you can teach exercise program. And most importantly, the Charcot neuroarthropathy, a chronic diabetic patient presented with unilateral leg swelling, tenderness. You must think about Charcot neuroarthropathy. If you miss the patient, he will walk in the affected foot, he will have fracture, he will develop ulcer, he will lose his limb. You can see the rocker bottom deformity. Okay. So what we do is we offload the foot in the total contact cast. Once the inflammation subsides, we have an artificial limb center. In that, we make the following orthoses: Vogler-Ryan orthosis, PTP orthosis. Then we make the sarcopterygium orthotic walker when the patient has arthropathy in the ankle. Then the artificial limb center where we make prosthesis and orthosis under the purview of the physiatrist, where we make the therapeutic footwear called MCR footwear. So a patient, diabetic patient may have a non-healing ulcer. For patient with ulcer in the forefoot, we prescribe a 4-foot rocker bottom footwear or clog type of footwear. For patient who has ulcer in the midfoot clog, scooped out insole or total contact cast or Vogler-Ryan orthosis. For patient who has ulcer in the hindfoot clog or heel to toe rocker, molded shoe, and again Vogler-Ryan orthosis. Then you can treat diabetic peripheral neuropathy. You can do nerve conduction study and EMG. Then we have an equipment called TENS therapy. Okay. So in the management of diabetes, 3D treatment. The D stands for diet, drill, and drugs. So the lifestyle modification, that means taking the correct food and do regular exercise called lifestyle modification. So you have a role in teaching exercise to the diabetic patients. According to the American Diabetic Association recommendation, we teach exercises. So there's a way exercises are prescribed, like a doctor write a prescription, Dolo 650 3 times a day, like that the way exercises to be prescribed. We follow the FIT principle. The acronym FIT stands for frequency, intensity, time, type, frequency, 5 to 7 days a week, intensity, 50 to 70% of maximum heart rate, then time for at least 1 hour, type aerobic or anaerobic as the patient wishes. Then before we teach the exercise to the patient, we evaluate whether the patient has any contraindication to involve in aerobic activities. So these are the areas in which a person with physical medicine rehabilitation background can work in diabetology practice. Right, thank you very much. Next time, when you cross the 4th floor of the general ward, come to our department and see what are the activities going on in the department. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for elaborating about, giving a bird's eye view about diabetes and how PMR specialists can support a big volume of people, maybe even you would have come across in your relative circle or friend circle also. And this is how a PMR specialist can make a change in the quality of life and make a change in people's life improvement. So now we are done with the day. Happy? Got some message? Done. So now you have to complete your questionnaire. You just go to the website, IAPMRCON 2024. Go to that. Just you have to complete the questionnaire so that you will get the kits and the certificate. Credit points from Dr. MGR Medical University for attending the program. And see you all as a physiatrist. That's what my vision. So happy. See you all. Bye. And once I just call upon Professor Dr. Ramuti sir for giving the vote of thanks for our seniors.
Right. Once again, good evening. I thank all my teachers. They are all my teachers. I did physical medicine rehabilitation in Madras Medical College, Government Institute of Rehabilitation Medicine from 1997 to 2000. That time I used to attend conferences as a first year PG, second year PG. That time also Professor Singh was same what I see him today. Even after 24 years, Professor Singh looks very young. Thanks to all my seniors. Myself and Dr. Vasta did DNP exam together in Safdarjung Hospital. Thank you very much for attending this session. Thank you very much, students, for your patience. Okay, if some of you take up this specialty, it's a success for today's program. Thank you very much.
Students, we call it for the day. I hope you got some message about PM&R or impairment and disability. Go back, just get a knowledge about it. When you see the world, you will come across plenty of people now. It will open your lateral vision or third eye. You can just see not only normal people, you will be seeing different kinds of people around the world. Sorry, you want just give them final words.
Yeah, thank you all for attending this session. Did you find it worthwhile, interesting? Did you get something out of it, or you got a nice opportunity to go through your cell phones? Yeah, I think, well, they were all saying that you might join physical medicine take physical medicine as a career. Probably yes, probably no. Doesn't matter. Whether you take gynecology, dermatology, neurology, doesn't matter. But whatever you do, there should be a bit of physical medicine rehabilitation in your mind when you are treating any patient. Whether you are treating a stroked patient as a neurologist, or a cardiomyopathy as a cardiologist, or a COPD as a pulmonologist, you should know that there is a bit of rehabilitation in everybody's life. For example, you think of a child with asthma, simple disease. Giving anti-asthmatic alone doesn't count, because what happens to a child with asthma? What is the problem with the child with asthma? Other than breathlessness, what are the other problems? The child loses time to play. For a child, the most important thing is playing. Child learns by playing, so that is what is lost. So think of something that comes out of it. That is what rehabilitation is about. So be a rehabilitationist, whether you are a physician, surgeon, gynecologist, dermatologist, doesn't matter. There should be a little bit of rehabilitation in your mind. That's what we are all trying to do. But in case you are interested, welcome. So thank you everybody for being with us. It was a nice day, and I would like to meet Aishwarya. Is she anywhere there? Is Aishwarya somewhere here?
Okay, thank you guys. You're not scheduled for any refreshments here because it's not to be served inside. The preparations are going in. Next program we will have a good refreshments or even with food also. Thank you all for being with us.